You were made for peace. Hi there, I'm Ashanti, and I am an anxiety champion and the host of this podcast. I teach peace seekers like you how to overcome anxiety through faith. This podcast was not made to help you cope with anxiety, but to help you break the grip of anxiety on your mind, body, and spirit for good. Are you ready to ditch the panic attacks and incessant worrying? Do you truly want the peace of God that passes all understanding? Good. You've come to the right place. Let's get started. Without further ado, panic, meet peace. Welcome back to the podcast. I am your host, Ashanti, and you are listening to the Panic, Meet Peace podcast, where we are learning to overcome anxiety by faith. Listen, if you're new here, welcome. I'm excited to have you. Glad to welcome you into the podcast. We have grown and we have rebranded recently. And so what you're hearing is new. It's a new brand, but the same focus of overcoming adversity, except the specific adversity that we're focused on is anxiety. It is my goal to help you overcome those panic attacks, to help you step out of fear and into faith. To walk away from a life where you are bound by everything that you're afraid of, and to open up to receive the life that God has promised you, which is a life of peace. You know, he said that peace I leave with you. This is what Jesus was telling the disciples before his departure back into heaven. He said, peace I leave with you, and not as the world gives to you have I given unto you, which means it's not going to be taken back. He's not going to change his mind like people do. He's God. And once he's made a decision, it's done. And so if you're living in a life that is filled with anxiety, if you're constantly doing things to cope with it and you're looking for therapy and you're experiencing panic attacks, you're dealing with insomnia, you're struggling to focus and to be able to enjoy the present moment, these are all different things that anxiety can do to a person. And so if you find yourself dealing with those things, then I have good news for you. You're in the right place because God delivered me from anxiety, and I will share my story soon. But God delivered me from anxiety where I was having a panic attack every single day. I thought that I was going to need medication, and here I am, medication-free, prescription-free, walking by faith into the life that God designed for me. And this is the same thing that he desires for you. And so that's why you found yourself here. And today we're going to talk about one reason why you might not be growing, why you might not be seeing progress in your life. I don't know if you guys know this, but I have a garden, a raised garden bed outside. And I have been trying to be a gardener for like 3 years. And I just haven't done my part. I haven't done my due diligence with it. But this year we started fresh. My husband and I got out there first of spring. We planted our seeds. We put in our new soil. We changed out the beds. We just did all of the work that was required. Planted our seeds. We prayed over our garden and we watered it. And we took care of it. We made sure it was planted in the right place to get enough sunlight. And immediately we started to see growth. And all of this growth was happening so quickly. We got so excited because we were like, oh my God, we're going to have a harvest in no time. But then I noticed one day that the sprouts that had come up had not changed. And so I thought at first, okay, this is normal. Maybe it just does really good at first and then it slows down. Anybody who's a gardener knows I'm wrong, and I'm sure you're cringing and gritting your teeth at me, but hear me out, okay? I'm new at this. And a week goes by and the sprouts have still not changed. And then another week goes by and the sprouts haven't changed. And then another week goes by. And so on the third week, when nothing changed again, and I noticed that the leaves were yellowing and that they were basically dying, I thought, I need to do something. So I looked it up and I was looking up all the reasons why your sprouts could be failing in a raised garden bed. And the only answer I found was too much water. So I said, okay, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to put a tarp over it and I'll cover it up during the rain because we've been getting a ton of rain here. And so I did that. I put the tarp up. I protected it from the rain. I had somebody take it off in the daytime so it could get sunlight and dry out. And I did that so consistently for a week and nothing changed. So then I went back and I looked again and I pressed my hand into the soil and I realized that it was as hard as a rock. The soil had become so compacted by all the rain and no tilling and no movement that it was just hard. Guys, I mean, it was like a freaking brick, okay? And so I promised myself that I would go out there and I would till up that soil because I looked it up and I looked it up, obviously, and I learned that compacted soil in raised garden beds stunts the growth of the seed because it does not get enough air, which is needed for it to grow. And so I get out there yesterday. I've got my garden tools. I've got some compost. I've got some topsoil, a little bit of topsoil, and I get to work. I start tilling that soil up. I start beating it. Guys, it was like I was hammering, like, you know how you see people ice sculpting? It was like I was chipping away at ice or a sculpture, like a stone sculpture. It was that difficult. But I did it. As soon as I got down to the soil that was still wet, it started to soften up, spread out the compost in it, added some fertilizer that luckily I had by the grace of God. And as I was moving the soil around and getting it all together, I started talking to the garden. Because, you know, they say that when you talk and speak positively to your plants, they do well. So I was speaking to them and I was being kind. I was like, I'm sorry that I didn't do my due diligence. And then God spoke to my heart and he said, this is the reason why you feel like you're not growing. And I realized that I had not done my due diligence to help this garden grow. And it was the same thing I was doing in my own life for my personal development, for my business development, even for my own job. I have a full-time job. And even in that area, I felt myself being less than what I was before. And I wasn't sure why. And God revealed to me, Ashanti, you're not doing your due diligence. And so I want to kind of go back a little bit further because on Sunday, I had the privilege of speaking at my church. I was the speaker for the hour, thanks to my pastor, who I love so much. And I spoke about asking God, that we need to have the faith to ask God for what it is that we want. And I will do a podcast episode on that as well, so stay tuned. But when I finished, my pastor stood up and he guided by the Holy Spirit, added to my sermon, and he said, you also have to do the faith requirements. You can't just throw out your requests to God and then expect them to fall out of the sky. You have to do what faith requires you to do. You have to be consistent. You've got to do your tithing. You've got to apply the faith principles to your life in order to see these things happen. It blessed me so greatly because I'd been asking God, why am I not growing? What is wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Why am I stuck here? And you might be asking yourself the same question. Why can't I get going? Why am I still in the same place that I was 4 weeks ago? Or last year, or 2 years ago? I haven't changed at all. Why? Well, let me ask you this. Have you done your due diligence? Have you applied any changes to your routine? Have you taken the time to search the scriptures and see what God requires of us as Christians? Just the basic principles like tithing, giving an offering, attending church services. Are you consistent in your attendance? Are you consistent in your giving? All of the things that Jesus kind of laid out as a foundational practice for believers, where do you stand in those things? And my pastor always asks this question, and I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe it's just the timing of it, but this time it really rang in my heart. He said, can God trust you with what he has given you? And he used the parable of the servant, the unjust servant in Luke. And it's the servant that was spoiling the master's goods. And he was doing a teaching about it. And his question for us was, can God trust you? We know that you trust God, but can he trust you? So I want to pose that question to you as well. Can God trust you? And listen, this message is not a condemnation message by any means. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. I am trying to encourage you because you see, faith without works, faith without action is as good as dead. That is what the Word of God says. You can have all the faith in the world, but if you don't do anything to prove your faith, if you don't do anything to show your faith, do you really have faith? Because the truth is, if you really believe it, you're going to do it. If you really believe that you are a successful business owner and you are going to make millions of dollars, if you really believe that, you are going to go to work. You're going to sit down and you're going to write your business plans and you're going to do the things. You're going to educate yourself. You're going to establish routines in your life to help better yourself. You're going to prepare yourself and you're going to do the work required to be a millionaire. But if you say, I believe that I'm going to be a millionaire, and then you go home and you watch TV all day long, and you don't do the work that's required, you don't do anything to build your business, you don't take the time to sit down and make a plan, you are not going to be a millionaire. And your faith is what the Bible says is dead. It's considered dormant. It doesn't do anything. It's the same way like with your losing weight. Let's say you say, all right, in 6 months, I want to lose 20 pounds and I want to be a healthier, brand new me. And I believe that I can do this. Well, that's great. But if you don't change your diet, if you don't work out every day, if you don't get the adequate nutrients and water and rest that's required, you will not lose that weight. You will not achieve that health that you're looking for. And so with faith, it's the same thing. If you feel like in your life you're not growing, whether that's spiritually or mentally or physically or emotionally or financially, if you are not changing, then I want to ask you to sit down and just take a look at your life. And you may already know the answer. You might already say, girl, I am not consistent. You might be saying, I haven't done anything that God has told me to do. I haven't tithed in I don't know how long. I haven't been to church in 6 months. You know, if you already know it, you are not going to lie to yourself, okay? I asked you that question and you thought of 10 reasons why you're not growing right off the bat. And that's good. That's awesome. The more aware we are of our current situations, the more aware we are of who we are and what we're doing in the moment, the better we will be. Because if we just ignore everything, then we're not really alive. We're not really aware. We're not really living this life. We're just kind of walking around waiting for miracles. But I want to ask you to be the miracle in your own life today. And I want you to sit down or get up. Maybe you've been sitting down this whole time and you need to get up and do something different. I took a course for learning how to market through email. And in this course, the instructor said, DSD, do something different. And her name is Amy Porterfield. She also has a podcast. It's called Online Marketing Made Easy. So if you have a chance, check her out. This is not affiliated or anything. I just want to encourage people to go after the people that have helped me greatly. But one of her things is DSD, do something different. Because if what you're doing now is not working, if you're not seeing any change, if you're not seeing any growth, then you need to do something different. Anything you do differently is going to make change. I also work out with my favorite app. It's called Tone It Up. Love, 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 love this app. They have so many different workouts on there. And honestly, I would not be as fit as I am without it. And I use it, I was going to say every day, but I use it a ton. Okay. And this week I've actually used it every single day. So I'm pretty proud of myself. But In the app, they say if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. So maybe you need a challenge. Maybe you need to challenge yourself to get up early in the mornings, to start your day before the rest of your household. Maybe you need to set up an hour in the morning where you can dedicate time to better fitness and better mentality. Maybe you need to set up some time to do personal development. And especially, you need to set up some time to be with God. You got to sit down and talk to him. You've got to write to him. You've got to pray to him, and you've got to get in his word, because he is your source for everything. Guys, I get the best ideas in prayer. I get some of the greatest sermons just in talking with God. And then I go and find scriptures that I've read 1,000 times and I got something new from, or that I haven't seen in so long that I didn't even know they were in the Bible, and they bless me so greatly. Time with God is essential for growth. I'm going to say that again. Time with God is essential for your growth. It's just like those seeds in the garden. Without contact with air, without contact with the source of their growth, which was air that they needed, one of the sources of their growth, they would not move. They became dormant. When you are not growing, it might be because you are not connected to the source. And while I was out there working on that garden, I just felt so lifted. Not because I was ashamed. Obviously, I knew I wasn't growing. And when God spoke to my heart, I knew he was telling me the truth. Okay. I didn't have to run from him. I didn't have to hide. All I had to do was just receive it and say, all right, what am I going to do differently? Because I want to see myself in this place in a year from now. I've given God some big dreams, okay? I have given him some big goals, and in order for those things to happen, I have to do my part. I can't just sit on my rear end and wait on him to send me a miracle. And that's the other thing too, and this may not be you, but for me, I'm kind of tired of asking God for miracles, I want to do something different, and I want to be more consistent and more disciplined. And I want to see the results, I want to test myself and see whether anything changes by me being consistent and diligent for long enough. This isn't a thing that I'm going to do for 3 days. This is something I'm committed to for a while, and hopefully for the rest of my life when I see these changes coming to pass. To go back to my working out analogy, I started working out in January really consistently. And I wasn't expecting to see any changes in my body, but I noticed right off the bat that I immediately started to lose weight, and I came down to the weight that I was looking for. I'm still almost to the goal, but I just have to stop eating so many carbs. That's just on me. Anyway, with the working out though, I've seen so much improvement, not just physically, but in my energy levels, in mental clarity, in my serotonin levels. I feel so at ease and joyful by working out. And here's how we can tie some overcoming anxiety into this thing, right? First of all, moving your body is so essential in overcoming just the emotional part of anxiety, because it's physically reduces the levels of cortisol in you, and it boosts your endorphins and your serotonin. So you automatically are giving yourself a boost of goodness by just moving your body through dance, through exercise, running, yoga, whatever you choose. Move your body. And then on a faith principle here, if you are not growing and you're feeling anxious, turning around and doing something different can help overcome the anxiety that you're feeling, because it's just piling up on you. It's called analysis paralysis, okay? That analysis paralysis that we get when we see all of the things that we should be doing and we haven't done, and then we don't know where to start, and then we don't know whether we should start, and then we start procrastinating, and then it just keeps going in this big cycle. When we break that cycle, When we stop analyzing and just start doing, when we make imperfect action and just do something, anxiety is absolutely absent. I want to show you something. When a mountain climber is climbing a mountain, he doesn't look up and see all of the rocks in his way and go, oh, man, I'm never going to reach the top. He sees himself using those rocks to get where he needs to go. He thinks about where he's going to place his hands, where he's going to place his feet, where he's going to hook himself up to, how far he needs to stretch his line, because he wants to get to the top of the mountain. And rather than let the rocks and the cliffs stop him, he uses them to get there. He overcomes them by climbing over them. And I want you to do the same thing in your life. Whatever mountains you're facing. First of all, the word tells us to speak to our mountains. Be thou removed and be cast into the sea, and it shall be done. But you have to believe it in your heart. So when you speak to it, believe what you're saying is true. I am not a failure. I am not a quitter. I am not giving up. I am not a loser. Whatever you're speaking, make sure that you get it in your heart. I believe that I am not a loser. I believe that I'm not a quitter. I believe that I'm not giving up. And then look at that mountain and say, I am overcoming you today. Whatever you have to say it, and then do it. I want to leave you with this scripture in James chapter 2, verse 17. Actually, I'm going to start at verse 14. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and food. If one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm, and be well fed, but doesn't do anything about their physical needs, what good have you done them? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. Listen, whatever you're facing, whatever growth you feel is stunted, whatever mountains are in your way, you have already been equipped with everything you need to overcome them. You have been equipped with everything you need to overcome the mountains before you. And God has literally laid out the tools for us. He said we have to have faith, we have to speak to it, and then we got to do something. And I believe that you have the power. You already know what it is that you need to do. And I believe that right now you're deciding in your heart that that's what you're going to do. Not because you feel guilty, not because you feel ashamed, but because you are determined that this is the last day you're going to be in this place. This is the last time you're going to go through this cycle. This is the last time you're going to be broke. This is the last time you're going to be alone. This is the last time. Not because you're angry, not because you're bitter, but because you have the faith. You have the real God-like faith to do what it takes to be who you know you are. You are so brilliant. You are so gifted. You are made in the image and the likeness of God. There isn't anything that you can't do, but you have to do something. Listen, friends, I hope that you are encouraged today. Today was very heartfelt, personal for me, because this is something that I'm dealing with. This is a season that I'm in where I have to be consistent and be diligent to do the things that I told God I would do and that He asked me to do. Not because I'm afraid that something is going to happen or something won't happen, because that's what anxiety does. Anxiety moves us by fear. But this time I'm moving myself by faith. I'm leaning into the faith that where God is taking me is where I want to be. I'm leaning into the faith that where I'm headed is better and greater and will help so many other people. I'm leaning into this faith. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Lean into your faith. Say goodbye to your fear. Turn away from it. It is not helping you, and fear is a lie anyway. Whatever anxiety is speaking to you, it's a lie. I can tell you that for a fact. But when you lean into that faith, then the change comes. You got to change directions and you got to do something different. I'm so excited to see what you do. And here's my challenge for you. Okay, here's my challenge for you. I want you to sit down and what you're asking God for. You don't have to share that with anyone. Just take some time to write it down. What are you asking God for? Then I want you to ask yourself, what is required of me to make this happen? Because God is always going to do his part. But the question is, are you going to do yours? Literally, Jesus says, if you ask for anything and you believe that you shall receive it, you shall have it. So whatever you're asking for, God is granting it. Yes, you can be successful. Yes, you can be prosperous. Yes, you can have that healing. Yes, you can be that weight. Yes. And then I want you to ask yourself, now what is required of me to do this? Because we're talking about a living faith. We're no longer going to live by this dead faith, okay? We're here today because we're seeing that we're not growing. We're looking for growth. We're looking for change. And so in order to do that, we have to have living faith. And living faith says, I have asked God for what I want. I believe that I have received it. Now I'm going to do my part. And whatever that part is, I want you to write it down next to the thing that you want. And I want you to commit to it. Put it in your calendar when you're going to do it. Write it down on your to-do list. Make an effort to scheduling time in your day, because we talked about this at the beginning of the year. We talked about making room for God. So now we're going to make room in our schedules for things that we need to do, for times to be disciplined and consistent. And watch what you're looking for come right to you. Watch what God does with just the little bit of the little bit of work that you do. Because you see, it doesn't really take much. It doesn't take much to be different. It just takes consistency. It just takes discipline. And those things might be difficult if we're leaning on our feelings to get them done. Obviously, don't do that. Your emotions are going to change. Your feelings are going to change. And listen to your body. If you need to rest, then honey, rest. Rest is a part of growth as well. As a matter of fact, it's in those resting periods that we see a ton of growth. When we sleep at night, that's when our muscles stretch and our body absorbs all of our nutrients. It's when our body is at rest is when it's growing. For anyone who has children, you understand this very well because they grow overnight, okay? So rest is a part of that equation as well. And if that is something that you need to do differently, if you've been going and going and going and God is telling you to slow down, it might be time for you to consider where you can make room to rest. I have an episode on my podcast specifically about that. It's called How to Pause with Asia Renee. And if you go back and listen to that episode, it is so good. It was only about 2 or 3 episodes ago. And she teaches us how to prioritize rest in our days. How any amount of time that we take to just take a break is a significant factor in our growth and in our stability and in our peace overall. So go back and listen to that episode when you get a chance. And when you also get a chance, sit down, make room in your schedule, take time to ask yourself these questions. Ask God for what you want. And then ask yourself, what is required of me to get this done? And have confidence in yourself. Believe in yourself. Even if you failed, even if you flaked, even if your follow-through record is subpar, be confident that you will do what you say you're going to do. And even if you don't feel like it, stick to it. Be committed to it. And watch your life change. Watch the growth that comes from you doing something different. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I feel like God just dropped a lot of good rain on us in this episode. He is so faithful to his word. And when he wants to get something to his people, he gets it to us. So if this message encouraged you, and if you believe that this was right for you, please let me know. Leave a review on the podcast. I would love to hear from you, and let me know how you're feeling about the podcast, what God is speaking to you about. And then also, if you want to be even more in tune with me and want to follow the podcast more closely, check out our emails. Underneath the description of the show, there is a link that you can click on. It just takes you straight to a subscription page, and you can subscribe to our emails, where I'll send you an email every week, and you can read it for encouragement, and you can also reply. It's not like an auto, a robot or anything. I actually send the emails, and you guys can respond and let me know where you're seeing growth and what you're committed to. I'd love to know about it. And then, of course, as always, you guys, please share this podcast with your friends and family, anyone that you think could benefit from it. I am kind of old school. I don't really like social media that much, and I don't want to use it to grow the business. So leaving reviews for me and spreading the word by word of mouth is so incredibly helpful to me. And I just thank you so much, guys, for your support. Thank you for spending the time with me today and making room out of your day to be with me and allow me to be with you. And I pray that this message blesses you and that you're encouraged to be better, to do what it takes to prosper. And as always, guys, let peace into your lives. Panic has no room. We're making room for peace today. Love you guys, and I'll see you next week.